This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. Hey, this is episode number 365, and my guest today is Aaron Chapman. Aaron is an expert at helping rental property investors get their deals financed using government-backed loans, which is a great way to finance your first 10 deals. Now, Aaron considers himself to be the CFO of his customer's business and really goes out of his way to help investors make good investment decisions. Today, we talk all about the power of owning and investing in rental properties and talk about some of the right ways and some of the wrong ways to actually analyze properties. If you're looking to start or continue building your rental portfolio, you're going to enjoy today's show. It's a good discussion. Please help me welcome Aaron to the show. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you here. For those of you that are watching, I got a funny little story about Aaron. We were kind of frantically trying to get things going here last minute, and he does not like Facebook, which I appreciate. I do a lot of stuff on Facebook, but my life would probably be easier if I didn't, if we all weren't so caught up in social media. So Aaron is actually using his daughter's account because he just doesn't want to have a Facebook account, and I appreciate that, man.
I even tried to set one up. I'm frantically setting up a Facebook account, and it tells me my Facebook account is like on hold or I tried. It's important enough to me that I was putting together an account because I was no F on my headstone. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Hey, Aaron, real fast. Your microphone is cutting out like every few words for some reason.
Oh boy. So let me lean in a little bit here and see if that helps a little bit. How's that?
Cool, man. That's good. So, awesome. Well, we're going to kind of start off here. We're going to talk about financing rentals. I know you help a lot of investors finance hundreds and hundreds of rentals a year. You've got a lot of lessons learned. We're going to share a lot of that today, but let's get started by telling us your background and kind of how you got into this business.
That goes back quite a ways. Back when I moved into Arizona in 1995, I started running heavy equipment, and then from there driving truck, and actually ended up working in the mines in New Mexico. And when they shut down that project in late 1997, I was hunting for something to do, and I was literally applying for any job I could, and I could not believe I could not get a job. And I remember sitting in a parking lot of a landscape materials company in my truck, dang near shedding tears because I couldn't get hired on somewhere. And I had a new baby, my wife, and I ended up going to the store to pick up diapers, and I ran to a guy I used to work with. This guy said, "Hey, what are you doing nowadays?" And I said, "Explain the situation." He goes, "Let's go to dinner." He goes, "I got something you may like." I'm like, cool. So we met at Red Lobster. He took me and my wife on a gift certificate for one of his clients. And he was a mortgage broker. And he gave me a business card for one of the brokers he used to work for. He said, "You should try this." I'm like, "I don't know what that is." I said, I don't even know the word mortgage. In fact, what I could only pull up in my memory for that word was an old man and an old lady on TV losing the farm because of that word. So it had a very negative connotation to me.
Right.
Well, he set up the appointment. I went in to meet with this guy. I cut a foot off of my hair. I shaved. I went and found a clean shirt, went and met with this individual, and he put me on as a telemarketer. So late 1997, started as a telemarketer, did that for 2 weeks, asked him to see if I could start working on those deals. And to try and supplement my income, I started driving truck again to Sacramento and back once a week, and then go to the office 3 days and build a business. Yeah. That wasn't working so well. Went back to running heavy equipment, would be the yard at 3 a.m., work until noon or 2 every day, get into the office as quick as I can, and work till 10 p.m. every day for a year until I started getting a business going. So 3 hours a night for a year, and it started to move. It was tough. It was a lot of work to get there, but 5 years into it, things started to really take off in a big way. The crash hit, came back and kept at it. But I've been working with investors since 2003, in fact. And now I have a team of 11. We do about 700 units a year now.
That's great. And the thing about working with investors, I guess, in the mortgage business is that you have repeat customers, right? If you're just working with homeowners, like, you're at the mercy of however frequently they want to move and if they remember you, right? So I assume it's a different model altogether, really, right? Just working with investors.
Oh, in a big way. One, the relationship is so much better, right? You start up having a relationship. You start the relationship with your initial conversation. Decide whether or not there's a continuity to do business. And then from there, you start that ability of getting that repeat business. Yeah, it's not as big a transactions, right? I know our owner-occupied guys in my business, well, they're getting $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 transactions. My average loan size is about 90 grand. So it's nothing sexy, but it's 6, 7, 8 transactions, right? Because of his ability to pay them off and use those. Is much better with the investors. That's what I really like about it. I can do loans all day long. I'd much rather have relationships.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, I don't want to disturb the show too much. Your microphone's still cutting out a little bit. I don't know. It's just like it just is muting or something. So I don't know what you could do. I don't think it's anything you could do. I think it's a technical issue, but we'll just
it very well could be. I'm hardwired. I've actually even bought a wire for this thing, drilled a hole in the ceiling of this place, run it down from the router, picked up a new mic to be sure this would work.
Awesome. We'll just keep trucking through here. So a lot of we're going to talk. A lot of people that are listening to the show or watching the show are real estate investors or aspire to build a rental portfolio if they don't already have one. And one of the challenges that I had when I first started is I left corporate America, and I know you primarily focus on government-backed loans primarily, right?
Yeah, those seem to be the ones that give people the best long-term usage.
Right. And so the challenge I had when I first started real estate investing is I quit my corporate America job, and then so I didn't have 2 years of tax returns. I was self-employed with less than 2 years tax returns, and so I largely didn't qualify. And then by the time I did, I had way more than 10 rental properties. So, but talk to people out there. When I coach people now that still have their job or their spouse still has their job and they're getting into real estate investing, I say, you got to take advantage of this opportunity to get government-backed loans if you're going to be accumulating rental property. So talk about that kind of scenario, that issue a little bit, and maybe explain it a little bit better than I just did.
Well, the government-backed type of loan, of course, is predictable, right? And so what I tell a lot of those who I start working with, I work with a lot of people that are first into this. They're just starting out, right? So the first thing off is get them their mindset right. They are in reality, if they're especially stepping into the turnkey world, they're not just buying a turnkey piece of real estate, right? That's what it's being penned as. It's being penned as a property that's been rehabbed, ready to rent, or rented. That's the turnkey piece, right?
Right.
What I really get into is like you're buying a turnkey business because it's not just the property. You're actually getting an operations division ready to rock and roll, right? So when you get into the scenario, where you've got somebody working with you directly, right? So let's just say you've got some turnkey properties you're going to be hooking these people up with. You are now their chief operations officer. You have their not only the acquisitions division, their rehab division, their rental division, maintenance, management, all in one. So I tell people, if you're going to buy a business, you've got to pay a lot more than market price just for the assets. Here you're buying one for the market price of the asset, and now you have a business operating. Now, when I first talked to them, I'm applying for the CFO position. Been doing this since 97. I work with real estate investors since 2003. I do 700 units a year. I know a little bit about the space.
Yeah.
So when it comes to just doing a loan, sure. I mean, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, God bless them, but they've proven you give a monkey a phone, they can close a loan. That's how we generate revenue. That's not our business. Our business is their business. And so what we do is I take an approach of I've got 11 staff members that just grind these things out. And my job is to do the spitballing, offer perspective from a CFO perspective, say, hey, we've got your entire finances. We've got your goals. We know what you want to do with your business. Here's the things we think that you should be thinking about, Mr. CEO. But you make the decisions. We'll get your chief operations officer on the phone. We will have a little board meeting, and we will set you up, and we walk you through the process from number 1 to number 20, number 30, whatever it is you want, right? So then we get back to the Fannie Mae properties, the ones that are government-backed. We can do 10 finance properties, 20% down on the single families, 25% down on the multi-units for all 10. So we want to take advantage of that. We want to structure those in a way where a person has a lot of flexibility. A lot of individuals ask me, what about the 15-year, right? Or what if I put 25% down? I want a lower rate. Rate's inconsequential. We really need to get into cash flow. That's where we need to change the mindset. Rate is a very consumer-based thought process. Right. No longer consumers. These are chief executive officers. They need to take the consumer mindset off, throw it out, and let's think business. So when you're thinking 15-year, I had a guy this morning ask me, well, why shouldn't I do a 15-year? So I got 0.5% lower. So, okay, let's talk about you getting 10 properties with 15-year notes. And then let's think you have 3 of them go unrented. But your cash flow barely covers the note. In fact, sometimes some of them you have to pull some money out of your pocket. What happens when 3 go unrented? How much do you have to go to your pocket to support your business? A lot.
Right.
But if you have 30-year notes, more than likely you have enough cash flow coming in, you can cover those 3 vacancies while they're getting rented and still be cash flowing. It's a matter of flexibility. We go into –
correct me if I'm wrong, the great thing about the government-backed loans is that, there's no kind of early payoff consequences. You've got that flexibility. You could always pay more down if you want to, but you've got, probably one of the greater things is you've got a 30-year fixed rate loan, right? So I know, like with my rentals, most of my rentals are if they're not paid off, they're financed through a local bank. And the rates adjust some of them are different every 3 or 5 years. So you're kind of at the mercy of where rates are at then instead of kind of getting them locked in, right?
Are you looking to change your life through real estate investing? If you're interested in either getting started or taking your business to the next level, please check out FlipNerd's private program at theinvestormachine.com. This is the most robust real estate investor coaching, networking, and mastermind on the planet and designed for your success. If you're ready to roll up your sleeves, ready to take personal responsibility for your own success, and ready to dive into a world-class instructional coaching program that provides you step-by-step instruction to help you achieve financial freedom, then you should apply today. Spaces are limited, and candidates are only considered after an application and interview process. Our 12-month investor program is unparalleled. Think you might be a fit? Learn more today at theinvestormachine.com.
And the rates adjust some of them are different every 3 or 5 years. So you're kind of at the mercy of where rates are at then instead of kind of getting them locked in, right?
Exactly. At the mercy of the market. Let's talk about where rates come from, right? Did you see The Big Short?
Yeah.
How many times?
Probably 2 or 3.
2 or 3. You have to watch it 2 or 3 times. So if there's anybody on this call right now watching, get The Big Short out, watch it 3 times in a row because there's a lot to understand. In fact, my daughter is with me here, and she's my assistant as well. We watched it on the plane, and I would pause it and explain because there's so much data in there. Do you remember where it said really the money's coming from that's funding these loans?
Not right off the top of my head.
Okay, so you remember that scene where they're in the conference room, and he's got the overhead projector, and he's like, who doesn't pay their mortgage, right?
Right.
Who was he presenting to? Do you recall?
It was just a bunch of bankers, right?
He was presenting to a pension fund manager.
Oh, yeah.
So when we think about it, you got a pension fund. Some of these are massive funds, have huge amounts of money. What they're trying to do is take somebody else's money and put it somewhere to make a margin on that. So that way, with that margin, they get to pay their bills, pay their bonuses, pay that retiree a small amount with a fixed income, right? So they always have to make money. Well, what he presented to them, say, hey, we can take a ton of your money, put it out there. You're going to get a fixed rate of return. It cuts your overhead because you don't have to keep thinking about what you're going to trade for. And then you keep a piece of that. We'll keep a piece of it. Everybody makes money, and the guy over here gets his pension. So it worked for everyone. And then you jump ahead to where the gal's sitting in the bubble bath. I can't forget her name. I think it was Margot, something or other, sitting there drinking champagne. And she's like, then they ran out of money because people didn't keep qualifying for loans. So they had to start getting a little bit more creative. That's where the problem started. But what it goes back to, and the main lesson there, is the money's not ours. It's not the bank's money. It's not the government's money. It's somebody out there investing it, expecting a return on investment. Exactly. And if they feel comfortable investing it with you, Mr. Investor, then you have the ability to take that money and put it to work and actually make money upon money. And when we really get down to running the numbers, your return is infinite. There's really, people run cash on cash returns, and I think the number is way off, extremely off.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about let's kind of continue on it, the right way to analyze a rental. Because a lot of people, like you said, they're using a cash on cash return. Everybody's using different metrics. Some of them want to buy a house for no more than 100 times rent. There's all sorts of people that have different things. In your opinion, what's the way to look at a rental opportunity?
So I don't know if there's a wrong way because I've talked to, like I said, I talked to hundreds of thousands of people. not hundreds of thousands, hundreds and thousands.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's amazing how different it is. I can take the same piece of real estate, throw it into the hands of 5 different people in one market. I'll have 5 different analysis on it. And they'll all be really close, but they'll be off, all of them. I was on the phone with a couple the other day from California. They both had different numbers for what their cash-on-cash run was, what their maintenance was, what their vacancy would be. So because of that, I say, let's get really simple. Let's dumb this down, because I'm hardcore redneck. So I like to dumb things down a lot. So in dumbing this down, let's talk about a $100,000 transaction. Are you okay with doing some math with me?
I'll do my best. In fact, I could cheat. I've got a calculator here.
Oh, right on. Check it out. So I'm going to go off my head. I'm going to let you do the calculation. So
right,
$100,000 transaction, 20% down. How much is that?
20K down.
Right on, 20K. So I always tell everybody, budget $5,000 for the title cost, lender fees, inspections, appraisals, taxes, insurance, everything to close.
Right.
So you got $5,000 there, 20% down. How much is it you're spending?
25K.
25K. And most people are going to take their cash flow and run their cash-on-cash return off of that, right?
Right.
Okay. So I like to say it's not 25K. It's 5K that you're spent, because the 20 is still yours. You just choose not to touch it. It's parked somewhere where you can't get at it readily. That's the whole point of savings, right? Put it somewhere where you're not going to touch it. You remember, I think it's Vegas Vacation. He stored his in a U-Bahn coffee can, buried out in his yard. Same principle, right? The difference is this is growing, right? So how is that 20K growing? So if you're putting 20K down on a $100,000 acquisition, what's the bridge between 20 and 100?
Say that again. You lost me.
If you put 20K down on a $100,000 acquisition, what's the bridge between 20 and 100?
I guess the 80,000 difference.
80K, right? 80K. Yep. That can be a loan, which we know came back from somebody's pension who's expecting a return. So 80K. So organically, because somebody's going to occupy that asset, they're going to pay down the 80K for you, right?
Right.
So over 30 years, at 360 months, if you take that 30 years, you divide that by 80, you get 13.33% of the original 20 every year when you average it out. So it's not a compound interest. It's just 13.33% of the original 20 every year going on top of it. So we know because of that, your 20 becomes 100, period. We know that.
And you're saying that's just principal reduction, right? That's just kind of equity, I guess. Yeah.
Principal reduction. Somebody's paying it down.
We're not talking about any potential appreciation yet, right?
No, we're just talking about that. So your 20 became 100 organically over there. So we take that and set it on the shelf. We know your 20 is becoming 100. Now let's get to the money you spent. Because the definition of spent, it's gone. You're never going to get it again, right? That's the 5K. So that $5,000 is gone for services. We even thrown in some of from the taxes and insurance in there too. I mean, we paid some of that with it, and that's gone. But is it reasonable to believe that on a $100,000 acquisition with a 1% rent to value ratio, that you would net after paying property management, paying the principal interest and the taxes and the insurance, that you would yield $250 a month? That doesn't include the maintenance and vacancy, just the hard costs. $250 seems simple, right?
Yeah, that's definitely below what I look for sure. So yeah,
exactly. So we're flying in under your radar, and it sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so $250. How long is it going to take to get your $5,000 back when you're getting $250 a month?
20 months.
20 months. 20 months, and you're 100% square. Your $20,000 still yours. It's growing in this little 30-year annuity. Yep. You got paid back your expenses in 20 months. So how many months are left in a 360-month example?
360 minus 20. I should be able to do that in my head, right? But 340 months.
That's why we have computers and phones and calculators, brothers. So we don't have to do that in our head. If I lose any more brain cells, I'm a talking monkey. So we got 340 months. How much money are you going to make in 340 months off $250 a month?
Let's do that. That'd be 85,000. Coincidentally, 85,000.
$85,000. Plus, you got $80,000 that you made because your 20 was sitting there, right?
Right.
Right, and you still have your 20. So add the 80 plus the 85. What do you have?
165.
165,000, and you got paid back, and you still have your $20,000.
Right.
Okay, so now there's something we missed here. What did we miss talking about?
Well, there's obviously appreciation, and there's some tax benefits in there, which are a little harder to calculate, but Yep.
Tax benefits, appreciation, rent raises. We didn't even talk about those yet, and we already have a ridiculous return on investment. Those we're going to put on the shelf. There's something else we missed. I touched on them, but I didn't add them into the equation.
What did we miss?
Maintenance and vacancy.
Yep.
What is the factor you use to calculate maintenance and vacancy? This is where it gets hairy. This is where everybody's got their own calculation, man.
No doubt about it. This is why you got to have a portfolio, because I have some that are just terrible, and then some that have no issues for many years at a time. But I think it a lot of it comes down to the class of property that you buy as well. So what I found, I own a lot of C-class properties, which I would historically tell you that they cash flow the best, but I could also tell you that they have the most turnover and the most maintenance issues as well. So,
well, I'm going to throw a bomb on this because a lot of people say 8%, some say 5%. One said he gets really, really aggressive, says 10% of his rent. I say 40% of the acquisition price.
40% of the acquisition price. Okay.
That will cover it for the 30-year window. Now, does that seem too aggressive? Does it seem unreasonable to say 40% of the acquisition price to cover your maintenance and vacancy for the 30 years?
Definitely not maintenance. Vacancy, it depends. Like if you got like a C-class property and they go vacant even if it went vacant every, a month out of the year. I mean, it's hard, man, because you have
there's a hard number to calculate. Yeah. Everybody tells me they tell me 25,000 to 30,000 would be more than enough. So I say 40 just to be, because I'm the CFO. I stomp on crap. I'm supposed to stomp on crap, right? So let's just figure that in there. Let's say, C-class properties are a whole animal themselves. We're going to say you have an average of B pluses between your A's and your C's. Right. So let's say average of B pluses, 40% you factored in. How much is that? 40% of the acquisition price?
$40K.
40 grand. So back that out of the 165, what do we have left?
125.
$125,000 you made with getting paid back. That's after getting paid back your $5 grand. You still have your 20 sitting there. You have 125. You got 40 for all contingencies. You tell me what the cash on cash return on that. It's damned infinite.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to calculate that one with a simple calculator.
There is no calculating that one. I mean, I've sat here, I've racked my head over it, and I just decided to concede to it's infinite because you don't have no money left in the deal. Right.
No, for sure. Yeah, the big, and we didn't talk about appreciation. And historically, I tell people that, I'm in Dallas. There hasn't historically been a lot of appreciation here, 2-3% a year. But the last 5 or 6 years, that has been far more. And so I've historically told people, like, just go after cash flow. Don't worry about appreciation. If it happens, that's great, but don't count on it. The reality is there has been massive appreciation here over the last 5 years. And truthfully, even though the government doesn't talk about it or kind of makes up their own calculations, there's a lot of inflation going on, right? So rents have been going up. And when we protested we get our tax bills like a few months back here. And we have a process every year. We look at our tax bills. I have my bookkeeper kind of I taught her how to run comps. So she's going to look to see, hey, they're trying to raise our taxes. Like if it's over a certain amount, run the comps and look at it and see if it's justified. And some of our property values, I was like, that property is not worth that. And then she's like, well, here are the comps. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy cow, this property is worth that. And so it's been, it's been something that I didn't really count on, at least mentally. I convinced myself, don't count on that. But especially if you hold a property for 30 years, I mean, you're going to see some massive appreciation in most markets around the country, I would say.
Well, and I think most of the markets people are buying in right now, you're going to see very small appreciation over that period each year. But 30 years is going to yield something for you, right? Yeah, and I don't even take that into account. We're showing an infinite return without even taking that into account, or the tax benefits, or any rent raises. Right. And a lot of people ask me, well, what is the real possibility of continuing to have a rental market? And I'll throw that back at you. I have my answer to that question, but I'm curious what yours is.
Like how stable is the rental market?
Yeah, rental markets across the country.
Oh my God. It's like one in 3 houses in America is a rental property, right? So I don't think home ownership is not really they're starting to monkey with the rules again, in terms of lowering the qualifications for loans, but I don't think that the ownership rate is really going to go up substantially. In fact, even you know these numbers better than me, but even back during the time, before the crash, when things got really sloppy, I think home ownership was still like 68% or something, right? I mean, there's still a massive kind of rental market out there.
Yeah, when they're giving houses away, it was still I mean, there's still
right.
rentals. Now, when I look at that thing, because you brought up inflation a moment ago, do you remember who Robert Reich was or is? I mean, he's still around. So I think he's a professor at Berkeley. It's kind of weird that a guy like me is going to bring up Berkeley, but he was the labor secretary during Bill Clinton's first term as president. And he did a documentary back in 2011 is when it came out. I'm pretty sure it was 11, called Inequality for All. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, so it's very kind of a liberal thought process, but it actually has some good facts and figures in there. And it kind of illustrates to me why we would still have a rental market for a long period of time, especially when you bring up the inflation thing. He asked this question. I'm going to ask you, what year gave us the highest median income for the average worker?
I bet it was a long time ago. I don't know the answer to that, but I think things are getting worse, if that's what you're kind of alluding to.
Correct.
For the average American, for sure. Yeah.
For the average American, yes. So the average worker, he said, had the highest median income in 1978. Back then, he says, when you adjust it for inflation, it was $48,000 a year. The average 1%er adjusted for inflation was about $301,000. Now, fast forward to 2010, what do you think was the income for the average worker in 2010? Because he did this in 2011. I haven't researched the numbers yet. But
I don't know the number, but I'm sure inflation adjusted, they have less purchasing power now than you did in 1978, right?
Yeah, 32,000.
Yeah,
32,000. Now the adjusted inflation. What numbers are we being given for inflation? Are they real?
Oh hell no! They take out the cost of food and the cost of fuel. It's like, well, that's what most people spend their money on.
Exactly. The two things they spend money on, all of a sudden, that we're not going to use that as an inflationary calculation. Right. And he used the inflation numbers that the government gave, and he still came up with that gap.
Yeah.
So it shows me where we really are. So if we have the wages going down, he said the average 1%er in 2010 was making $1.1 million. So what we see is, you go back to the old policy of trickle-down economics, is actually flow up. We're much more productive than we've ever been. We've got a lot more money coming in here, but it's not flowing to across. It's going upward, and that's a whole different political discussion. But what that tells us is the average individual does not have enough money to save for the down payment, much less fix it up. That's where my argument to anybody that starts to step on turnkey, it's like, wait a minute, you're really stepping on a world that needs to be given a lot more. They need to be giving a lot more credit than what they are being given globally, because you're fixing up neighborhoods. You're getting people an opportunity to rent a home that's been rehabbed. So if people are doing a good job on the rehab, and the good, clean rehabbers, they're getting something they never would have had before. They can't afford that. They can't afford the down payment. We're giving people an opportunity at great housing. I hear stories upon stories of individuals getting ready to get the keys to rent their new house, and they hug their property manager and saying, I can now have Thanksgiving at my house this year. And he looks at him kind of, huh? He says, you should have seen what I lived in before. I wouldn't bring people over for a family gathering. Now they have that. That's being missed. There's not being looked at as to what blessing is being given.
And the funny thing is more and more as, by the way, people that are listening to this, we're kind of ranting now, but this is basically kind of just building the case for rental properties are going to continue to be a strong investment. So a couple of interesting things. When you buy rental properties, we often, when we're talking about the value of a home, let's use as an example of $100,000 purchase price. Well, that's usually, let's just say the market value was also $100,000. When we use that phrase market value, what we're saying is that's the value that you could resell it to another home owner for, right? But
Correct.
The reality is rental properties should be valued more like commercial properties, where it's more of an investment vehicle. It's not based on, now if you were to, the truth is, if you wanted to resell that house, that would be the market value. But if you're buying it from an investment standpoint, it's not really the way to look at it, because its highest and best use is a rental versus just shelter for an actual owner, right?
Well, yeah, there's more value in it as a rental. There's more value in it as a business, because like we were talking about before, they're buying an actual operating business, a turnkey business with executives in it who have already made the mistakes, who have already found out what doesn't work. Not at their expense. You don't have to start your business with 3 years worth of capital to screw things up just to make a profit. You're making a profit day one. And yes, there's more value there, but we can't sell it that way. We can't get appraisals that way. It has to be sticks and bricks. So the investor is actually getting way ahead by buying it for market value. They're buying the company for the asset value. And let's get into that real quick here. For anybody who's on in the turnkey side of this listening in here, we really got to be using the MLS to be able to list these things out and document the history of the sale, because that's where appraisers are going going to get their data. It's happening out there across the country. I have 23 licenses. I work in 23 markets. Every single one, the appraisers go to the MLS for the value. They don't go off of county records of sales anymore. They're looking to see what has the market dictated as that value. So to your point, they're getting a extreme discount on this business to buy the sticks and bricks at market value based upon what a homeowner would pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, a little plug, by the way, while we're talking about turnkey, is we have a lot, actually quite a few people that might be listening to the show. We help people buy turnkey rental properties. So if you go to passiverental.com is our website, passiverental.com, which you can find on FlipNerd as well. We help people buy properties in lots of different markets, some of the best rental markets in the country right now. So a little shameless plug there.
There is nothing shameless about it or shameful or whatever you want to put in there, because we need to plug this stuff, because a person who's buying an investment property needs to go to a professional source like you're talking about right there, like you're plugging, to be that chief operations officer, help them find the markets with the right people to run them. Yeah,
I have a friend, I don't know if he's going to listen to the show. He just told me to start listening to the podcast, but a neighbor of ours, I've actually helped a few of our neighbor friends start buying rental properties, and the pretty successful guy, works for a big company, sales organization, so I'm sure he does well. He was talking about he wanted to start buying rental properties, and he's like, I want to kind of subsidize my retirement. And he's like, I don't know how old he is, probably mid 40s. I'm like, subsidize? Let me show you how to 5X that. Like, why, so I think people have to get over this mindset of, I'm just going to invest in my company's IRA or my 401k, whatever. And I know with my rental portfolio, I don't have that many. I have like 40 right now. We're probably going to start doing a lot more stuff in some other markets soon. But just that piece alone, I know that because of the appreciation, because of the cash flow, because we've been aggressively paying stuff down over the years, which isn't the right answer for everybody, but that's kind of been our recipe, is we've got a nice little nest egg there that is gonna help us retire early if we want to, or more comfortable for sure.
Well, agreed. And like you said, there's a mindset there we got to work on. That's my main goal, is help the mindset change from a consumer to a business owner, and seeing the potential. People talk about subsidizing their retirement, like you said. There's a greater capacity here. It's just a matter of understanding what your capacity is. I need to have that data on their personal finances to be able to determine what can we do? What is that potential? Then let's build your vision. Then let's set these goals up and these milestones. And let me check on you periodically, make sure you're reaching them. Because if you're not, we need to know why.
Yep. Well, Aaron, we're going to start to wind things down here. What have we not talked about yet? If people are listening to this and they're thinking, hey, I want to own rental properties, I don't know where to get started, I would say, contact us again at passiverental.com. You can schedule a call with my team, and we'll kind of talk to you about some of the pros and cons and markets you might consider. And then we'll kind of introduce you to people like Aaron that can help you getting financing. But before any of that happens, Aaron, back to the mindset, what would you tell people that they should consider before they take the next step of even contacting us?
Well, one, get the mindset right, or talk to some people to help them with the mindset. Yeah. They can look me up. I'm AaronBChapman.com. I'm trying to find AaronChapman.com, but some kid was putting his baseball stats on it years ago, and it may be available again. Then there's and the other is you can look me up on the MLS. My number is 267-844. Check out my MLS ID. See what states I'm licensed in. Make sure that you're comfortable with talking with me, and then let's schedule a time to talk. We can start figuring out how we can structure this and help them blend into what you're doing, and then understand that the people that are helping you and the people that you're talking about from your group, they're in it. Yes, this is our businesses, but it's also for you as an individual. Yeah. I have learned a lot.
Aaron, we lost your audio. I don't know if you can hear me.
Are you picking me up now?
I don't know what's going on. It's like there's a magnet that's like sweeping over your house or something. Go ahead. Say that last 15 seconds.
Missouri. Okay, so I was just talking about the things that I'd learned over the time in business and how elementary it's become. And you remember back in the mid-2000s, the whole craze about The Secret? Everybody was reading the book, watching the movie. Right. I listened to that running a marathon. And I just had a little bit left on it when I finished the marathon. And one thing I remember when I was thinking about the attitude of gratitude and all that nobody ever talked about how it worked or why it worked, right? They just said it worked. The universe just delivers, right? And I just believed that it would. And I started finding how gratitude does make a huge difference in our world. And I think people need to start incorporating that into themselves a lot. And I'm taking this message to everyone that I stumbled into an opportunity to understand why it works. If you don't mind, I would love to share that with everybody who's listening.
Yeah,
so I had an employee. She was younger, great at her job, millennial. She was something I think she needed to be rewarded for what she was doing, and it was coming up on her 6-month mark. And I told her, if you lasted 6 months, we'd look at your employment and we'd look at your income and see what we can do with that. So I had to write up this narrative for corporate to be able to approve the increase I wanted to give her. So I looked online to see what's the average increase for a person's income. Have you ever looked to see what they would average, what the average would be across the country? Well, it's actually 2 to 3% of what their base is, right? The number I had in my head was like 10% of her base, and then 30% of her bonus by hitting certain metrics. So it was a big number, and it took me a lot to get corporate to agree to it. So I had to write up all this commentary as to why. Finally, the day come that they had approved it, and I was looking forward to sitting down with her and showing this to her, because I just love it when people respond. It's like your kid opening his Christmas present. It's the thing he wanted, right? You want to see the light on his face. Well, she got the package. I explained it to her, and she looks at me with this look of kind of disdain. And she's like, "That's it? You can't do any better than that?" So I ask you, how would you respond to that? If you, just from your gut, not what your head's saying. If there was no rules on how to respond, you could say whatever you wanted. What would you say in that environment? If somebody said that to you after you went to hell to get them this?
Right. Yeah, that seems like that's disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Somebody would respond that way. Yeah.
My gut was, okay, one, not only am I not going to let you have your raise, but I want your job too. So go ahead and clean out your desk. You ungrateful little individual. And then on your way out, drop the keys off to your car because you don't deserve that either, right? That was how I felt, but I did not respond that way. I took it as a coaching opportunity, and things just didn't quite mesh with us after that because of that issue.
Yeah, it's soured.
It soured things. And I'm like, man, I was helping her, and this is what the end result was. I was frustrated. Well, that same week, I'm driving to the office, and I'm exiting the freeway, and there's a man, we know the scene, standing on the side of the road with his cardboard sign. And it just, something hit me about the guys. I'm looking at him. It just rang to me. This guy was really in need. So there's a spot where I hide cash in my truck. I reached, there was one bill in there. I rolled down the window and I held it out. He walks up. He takes the bill, says, "Thank you," turns away from me, starts to walk away, and he unfolds it. And he stops and he looks back at me. He says, "Are you serious, man?" As he's holding this up. I said, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "This is $20, man." I said, "Yeah, it's yours." He walks back to me. My arm is still up on the window, like you usually have it. He reaches up, takes my hand, pulls it towards him, bows his head, and audibly says a prayer of thanks to God and a blessing on me. Wow. And with tears streaming down his cheeks, he looks up at me. He goes, "I have no idea. You have no idea what you've done for me. Thank you." And he kept thanking me profusely. And at that point, I'm thinking, dude, you have a square? Because I'll swipe my card, because that's all the cash I had. And then as I'm driving away, it just hit me. It's like, wait a minute. On one side, I gave somebody a $10,000 a year increase, and it felt like she spat in my face, and I was angered of it, and I wanted to take everything from her. I gave one guy $20, and I wanted to give him everything. Then it hit me. That's how it works. It's not just a us and God thing. It's an us and everybody else thing. How you respond determines what you get in return. And if you respond negatively, they will take from you, because people don't want to help a person who's ungrateful. But if you're grateful for the smallest thing, you get greater things. It's an amazing, amazing concept that has real practical application.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing that story. That's powerful. Yeah, one of my takeaways. It's been a long time since I've watched The Secret, but one of my takeaways from it too, that it kind of ties into what you're saying here is, and maybe you'll agree with this if you remember, if you haven't watched it for a while, is it's a powerful movie. But one of the things is that some people kind of left thinking, well, all I have to do is just think about what I want and be grateful and things will just happen. And I think one of the big things that was missing that I want to make sure people hear is you got to take action. You got to work hard for things. And I feel like that one kind of underserved hey, opportunities are created when you're grateful, for sure. No doubt about it. But also when you're out there swinging, when you're working hard, like opportunities just kind of so-called fall in your lap, so it's important to be positive, think positive, have gratitude, all those things, no doubt about it. But you can't just sit on the couch and wait for something to happen either.
Exactly.
Right.
the fact that
Got a little bit of audio issue here again, man. Sorry.
it's knocking and then live through it, I hope. Is that working now? We got it back up? Okay, there we go. Well, they say that's the blessing of live, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you that are listening to the recorded version, we do these live now. We record them to FlipNerd Elite members. You can learn more if you go to flipnerd.com and click on the Join tab or the Training tab. You can join as an Elite member, and you get access to watch us record these live now. So, but this is the challenge with live. So anyway, Aaron, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay,
I can hear you fine. You're a little delayed, but I can still hear you.
Yeah,
it's like watching an old kung fu movie.
I don't want to do any kung fu moves here. I don't want to hurt anybody. So,
well, yeah. You don't want to do that. You might break something.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you spending time with us today. This is good stuff, as they say.
Absolutely, my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. And real fast, Aaron. So, tell us one more time if folks want to reach out to you, they want to get a hold of you. Where do they go?
Just go to AaronBChapman.com. AARON. B as in boy. That's not my middle name. CHAPMAN.com, AaronBChapman.com. Should lead you right there. You can also go Aaron.Chapman@SNMC.com. It's as in Sierra, November, Mike, Charlie.com. I'm with Security National Mortgage Company.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, we'll add those links down below the video here on FlipNerd, and anybody that wants to check them out, and we'll add a couple more links to things that we talked about as well. So, Aaron, good to see you. Thanks for being with us today. Awesome. And everybody, thanks. This is episode number 365 with Aaron Chapman. I would encourage you to go watch other episodes we've had. We got hundreds of episodes and a lot of great information and other great guests as well. So thanks for listening to us or watching us. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on another upcoming episode. Everybody take care. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the FlipNerd.com Investing Show. If you're not yet an elite member of FlipNerd, you're missing out. We have tons of great training, including a new detailed master class published each month and live training webinars with experts twice a month. Plus, you'll get access to all of our archives, where we already have a growing library of master classes and other training videos. Elite members also get membership in our incredible online Mastermind group, where many of the top real estate investors from across the country, including many of the hundreds of guests I've had on the show in the past, are already members. Whether you're brand new, looking to get started, or a veteran, you simply must join today. I promise you won't be disappointed. To learn more or join today, please visit flipnerd.com/lab. That's flipnerd.com/lab. See you on the next show.